Ticket to Bollywood. Vicky Donor was my ticket to Tinseltown. As I have mentioned before, my work on Just Dance got me noticed by Shujit Sirkar. I didn't have to audition for this role, the script just fell into my lap. Not that I was their first choice, Vivek Oberoi wanted to produce and act in Vicky Donor and they had almost signed him up, but for some reason, Roni Skriwala, the producer, changed his mind. The role was then offered to Sharman Joshi, who politely declined it. That's when the film came to me. I think my image really helped them make this choice since the topic was a bit edgy, they needed an endearing character. I got a call from Jogi, the casting director, as he had earlier auditioned me for a movie called Teen The Bhai. Trust me when I say that I had killed that audition. I'm usually overcritical of myself, but I know when I'm really good at an audition. They took 5 more auditions, but eventually I wasn't selected for Mirgdeep Singh Lamba's directorial debut. At that time, I didn't know why I hadn't been chosen for Teen The Bhai, but in retrospect, it's good that I wasn't, as there was something far better waiting for me. But who could explain this to me at that point of time? I was so depressed that for the first time I carried the disappointment home with me, making Tahira sad too. I was upset because I thought the movie would have been perfect for me. Rakesh Omprakash Mehra was producing the film about 3 Punjabi brothers. Eventually, they chose Shreyas Talpade over me. The good that came from that audition was that it made Jogi Paji, as I fondly call him, notice me. He made a mental note of my performance, which is why he gave me a chance with Vicky Donor. Another rejection came in the form of I Hate Love Stories, where Imran Khan and Sonam Kapoor were to play the leads. Here I was, with a heavy heart auditioning for the role of a side character in this movie, and I was rejected even for that. You can never assume what life has in store for you. Who had known life would come full circle when a couple of years down the line I would be paired opposite Sonam in Bewkufia. Code #3. Sometimes you don't get an opportunity as there is a better one waiting for you. This might sound bookish and idealistic, but if Teen The Bhai or I Hate Love Stories had happened, Donor would have never happened and this code wouldn't have been typed out. Another memorable audition that I remember was for Bhag Milkha Bhag. I grew my beard and tied a turban on my head, locked myself in a room and recorded the audition on my handycam. I think Tahira wondered if I had really lost it by then, but she's always given me space without being judgmental or even being vocal about her concerns. I did get a call post the audition telling me that Rakesh ji had liked it, but as fate would have it, Farhan got it and did complete justice to the role of the flying Sikh, Milkha Singh. Coming back to Vicky Donor, a meeting was finally arranged between Shujit Da and me. This is how it went. He said, "Kaisa hai tu, theek hai? Sperm donor ka movie hai, karega?" I was shocked. He gave me the script and said, "Padh ke bata kaisa laga terko?" I read it and really liked it as it was an interesting subject and the script was really good. He then asked, "Karega?" I said, "Haan, karega." Who was I to say no to a filmmaker of Sujit Das stature? Like I said, Sharman Joshi had refused to play Vicky. In fact, Vinay Pathak, Boman Irani and Om Puri were offered the role eventually portrayed by Anu Kapoor, which they all refused. Anuji later got a national award for that role. Throughout the making of Vicky Donor, I was more or less numb, lost and quite underconfident. I didn't know what was happening around me. I just did what Sujit Da asked me to do, and if I ever wanted to give another take just to be sure, he wouldn't let me. According to him, I was my most natural in the first 2 takes, and if he took any more, then I would start acting. I was nobody to doubt his craft or style of working, but I didn't know how I looked on screen or whether my dialogue delivery was good or if I was doing justice to the character. All I knew was that despite being unsure about my acting, I was having fun on the set. I think I was at my innocent best and simply wanted to contribute towards making a good movie. And gave the character of BG some interesting Punjabi one-liners that were accepted and incorporated into the script. One day, just out of the blue, I made Sujit Da listen to the song that I had composed in my college days, Pani Da Rang, and he seemed to like it. Basically, everything was going right during the making of the movie, and of course, we realized right after the release that we had done a mighty good job. Response was tremendous and overwhelming to say the least. As soon as Vicky Donor reached the theaters, I was bombarded with incessant phone calls, text messages, emails, tweets, and Facebook posts, all congratulating me. I remember around 2 weeks into its release, my friends and I decided to watch it together. The best part was that we couldn't get tickets of the film at any of the suburban multiplexes in Mumbai, and we tried at nearly 6 or 7 of them. That was a really big high for me. But one thing that was at an all time low was my personal life with my wife. Suddenly, I became everyone's property. I wasn't hers alone. From the shy boy next door, Ayushmann Khurrana, I had transformed into Oi Vicky or a sperm donor. Since neither my wife nor I had been exposed to such a drastic change in our lives, she didn't know what was happening and neither did I. We were totally clueless about how to react or respond to my sudden fame. I just went along with the flow instead of trying to control it, leaving Tahira behind. It was not a conscious decision to revel in the newfound glory. To be honest, I didn't even enjoy as much because I knew I didn't have my wife along to share it with. I was as lost as a teenager buying his first packet of condoms at the chemist's. In fact, I didn't even realize when, at the first public event we attended together, I accidentally let go of her hand as I was accosted by the press. After about 20 minutes of jostling into the flashing strobes, did I realize that I wasn't holding the hand of the person I had come with. When I turned around frantically to look for her, I saw her standing just where I had left her, with tears welling up in her eyes. I felt so miserable. I just wasn't in control of my life. And neither am I today. Of course, I am better at handling my life than I was back then. But at that time, despite the roaring success of the movie, I wasn't happy. Personally, I was suffering a lot. I just couldn't give time to or share my success with my wife or my newly born son. It was a messed up phase for me. Even though our relationship of 12 years perhaps helped us sail through this phase, the disconnect existed not just with Tahira but with myself too. I had always wanted to be an actor, but I had never thought about the frills the job came with and about how much they would affect my life directly. At that stage, one truly becomes a loner. This sentiment was confirmed by Mithun Da on the sets of forthcoming film Hawai Zada when he said, "क्या मिला मुझे सुपरस्टार बनके? अब मैं ज़्यादा खुश हूँ. I was a loner then, but I am much more sorted and happy today." He told me that he had discussed the same with Amitabh Bachchan once, who felt the same way. This, despite the fact that they were both superstars of the 80s, Mithun Da also confessed that every Friday he would run a temperature because of the stress and pressure that the job brought him. Post Vicky Donner, I made a conscious decision to not let go of the most beautiful part of my life, the one that gave me permanent happiness, the one that is intangible, and the one that is unconditional. So I have started making conscious efforts to meet my family more often, and I try to go see them in Chandigarh even if it's just for a day or at times only for a couple of hours in a month. Even though I haven't reached formidable heights in my career as of now, and I know that I still have a long way to go, but in retrospect I feel that the best time of my life was when I was working with MTV and had got recently married. Tahira was working as a lecturer at a mass communication college. We used to visit the malls, watch all the movies together, shop, eat, go for occasional holidays, and the little fame I had was enough to make my wife proud of me and for me to be only hers. But then again, the present is what I always wanted and what I signed up for. Wait without knowing about its repercussions. Today I make sure that Tahira reads all the scripts that come my way, and her opinion matters a lot to me. We had in fact discussed the script of Vicky Donor and had shared our reservations over the few scenes that made us uncomfortable. But she was supportive of me. It is a different story that when she actually saw the kissing scene on big screen, she threw a fit, and as if that wasn't enough, my second film Nautanki Sala created another big stir in our lives. The irony is that she wants to support me, as she knows it's just an act being played out in front of an impatient crew and a worried producer. But the wife in her takes precedence while watching my films. And then logic takes a backseat and things go haywire. We are still trying to help each other out in dealing with this. Negotiations are still on. While playing Vicky in Vicky Donner, I took real-life references by picking up some traits of my slightly loud brother, Apar Shakti, and a friend, Aviral, and incorporating them into Vicky's character. Thankfully, it worked out pretty well. Before shooting began, I was sent for a month-long workshop with the famous Pandit Ji, also known as Professor N.K. Sharma in Delhi, to train for the role of Vicky. Like I mentioned before, I wasn't auditioned for this movie. I just had a basic screen test with the casting director Jogi. Shujit Da had told him to rehearse the scenes with me, so when I began rehearsing, the TV anchor in me refused to let go. Jogi said, anchoring come kar, and actually complained to Sujit Da that I was still an anchor, and that's when they sent me and Yami, my co-star, to Delhi for a month to attend an acting workshop. However, I was more receptive towards the workshop than Yami was. She thought it was madness. Face distortion, breathing, and voice control modulation classes didn't make any sense to her. I came from a theatre background and was pretty much used to the drill. She found it crazy initially, but she was already an actor on television. It was me who needed the grooming. Pandit Ji is quite an endearing character himself. If he is happy with you, he will only slap you, and if not, then God save your ears from his chest Hindi abuses. He is part of the NSD repertoire and runs a reputed theatre group called Act 1 in Delhi. During the workshops, I worked a lot on my body language and practiced several improvisation that really helped us warm up for the shoot that followed. In short and in no particular order, this was my journey of bringing to life the whack job who is now popular as Vicky Donor. Then began a testing time in my life. I particularly wasn't a low period but definitely a learning lesson. It was the time I had signed up for Nautanki Sala. I really thought it would do well, but that was right after signing the movie and reading the script. Initially, there wasn't any script, it was still being written, although I had seen and loved the French film Après Was, from which it was being adapted. I have always liked Rohan Sippy's work at large. His movies are big canvas portraits of life, be it Dum Maro Dum or even Bluff Master. In the end, however, I felt disappointed. I had presumed it was going to be something like his previous outings. Moreover, because I never understood numbers of budgets, I didn't look at the finer print. Later, when I came to know that it was to be a small budget movie, I felt somewhat let down. I don't blame Rohan Sippy one bit. However, I guess his intentions were always clear. It was perhaps a miscommunication or something, but in my head I clearly hadn't signed up for what was coming my way. This happened after I was taken under the wings of YRF's talent management department. After watching the trailer of Nautanki Sala, Aditya Chopra immediately called me to the mythical fourth floor that very few know exists. He was shocked by the trailers that were doing the rounds and expressed his surprise to me, despite having advised me to go ahead with Rohan's film since he had been confident about his work. Thankfully, the award season was on the time Nautanki Sala released and I won the Best Debut Actor award for Vicky Donor. My public image as Vicky Donor was so strong that a few naysayers, no matter how hard they tried, couldn't spell doom for my acting career. Nautanki Sala was made in almost record time of 40 days. Again, as a budget constraining exercise, well-wishers said that I looked jaded in the movie, but they didn't know that we used to shoot continuously for 16 to 18 hours every day. There were times when I felt that things were not going the way they should be. I remember how during our first script reading session, I got a strong intuition to just run away from the project, but I thought it was just the initial jitters and things would look better after a while. The producers were very confident about the success of the project, though I still felt that something wasn't right. In all fairness, I don't think the blame rests entirely on Rohan Sippy. Perhaps the makers took Vicky Donor as a template to make a small budget money spinner. Nautanki Sala wasn't a flop, it recovered much more than the budget it was made in, but I don't think it achieved the intended target numbers. I was also disappointed with the kind of feel that was portrayed in the teasers, songs, trailers and promos. Of course, I had done much more beyond that kiss in the movie, but to keep harping on it and showcasing it repeatedly was a desperate attempt to grab some eyeballs. I expressed my displeasure and thankfully it was soon removed from the trailer and the song. Nevertheless, I am happy that this stumble happened at a very early stage in my career. Code #14. Had I waited for the script of Nautanki Sala to be written before signing it, perhaps I could have avoided the misstep it turned out to be. Patience and wisdom is something that even the patient and wise strive for.